ready to launch our penultimate session before the awards evening this evening. This is looks to be an exciting little interactive workshop doing some uh, counter index building. So building a counter index, fighting pre-scripted futures in Source with Caleb Sauer. And so I will turn over to Caleb. Welcome.
Hey guys, how's everyone doing? Am I able to share my screen? Let's see.
You should be.
Let's go ahead and get that started. Can you guys see okay?
Yes, I can see Source.
Okay, awesome. So are we ready to begin? Can I jump in?
Yep, go for it.
Okay. Well, hey everyone, I'm Caleb, and I'm in a work called Source, and we're going to spend the next hour building something with it together. I'm genuinely curious what you guys are going to find because I have stared at this thing for so long that I can't see it with fresh eyes anymore. So this will be fun for me too. So Source is on my screen. Hopefully you guys can see it. And it's an issue of a fictional literary magazine, a publication called Contour, that claims to have come into possession of some intelligence documents about Iran's nuclear program, an intercepted transcript, a National Security Council memo, personnel files, and more. The publication printed all of it. But it also published its own editorial processes and metrics monitors. The arguments, the private messages, the data on how readers behave, the seams are showing here. 5 editors run the publication, and they disagree about just about everything. Pallow's the editor. He decides how things are arranged. Palm is a personal essayist. She wrote an essay about her uncle, an Iranian topology professor who was imprisoned and later died. Gage handles the data. He has some ethical concerns about the material. Lamps, the fact checker, she verifies every claim, including the ones that hurt her fellow editors. And Noah watches all of them and names the patterns that everyone else is too invested to see. The arguments between them are all over the work. And you guys don't have to remember that. Those names will pop up again and again. So let me show you how it's built. Each section here is written by a different character. Section 1, Beiruz, is Palm's essay about her uncle. So we can scroll here and we can see her essay. But we also have a commentary tab over here on the right. Each section has one of these, and this is where it gets interesting. Each entry in the commentary links to another area of the publication that is commenting upon this section. And you can click any of these entries and move to that area and see the full context. So here's the editorial chat. We'll click here. We can see that Pallow here is asking if Palm's mother can review a transcript that's within the issue, and Palm is denying it. If we go back down here, we can also see we have a inbox between Lamp and Palm as they're arguing a little bit about some corrections to this essay. And here's a scan of a document, a recovered fragment, showing some topology notes recorded on a napkin. Anywhere you go, if you go right down here on the bottom left, you'll be able to go back to where you were. So editorial arguments, private correspondence, metrics, the full content of each you can access under the corresponding instance here. There's also a few other sections over here on the left. We have sources, which will take you to a myriad of different documents that the publication has published. Editorial, which will take you to the full threads between all of the editors discussing together how they're going to organize this issue. Correspondence should be messages between them. And then monitor, which is where your terminal metrics on reader behavior and things of the sort exist. Now let's go back here and talk about the index a little bit over here. These indexes have various terms in each section that are terms selected by the editors that are relevant to the section. Any of these that you click on will take you to a concordance of places that those terms are relevant. So if I click over here on Beiruz, we can see various places in the issue that comes up. You can click on any of these. To close that, just come up here to the right. So these are not neutral selections in this index. These are also selected and published by the editors. So they're not neutral, they're arranged. And so that leads us to what our goal is today. We're going to attempt to build a counter index, a set of terms that stands outside of the work's own arrangement, highlighting the mechanics of the arrangement the work uses to influence the reader's experience. Let's go back to the main page. So we'll walk through an example of how a counter index term works to show how we're going to do this. Let's go over here to section 2. This is an essay about Iran and American foreign policy. So we start off. There's a country you've never been to that you prepared to bomb. But let's look at the liner notes. Right here, you see Palm is commenting and annotating this essay and critiquing it. I objected to this opening. The you presumes an American reader with a specific politics. My mother has a more complicated relationship to the word bomb than this sentence allows. And if we scroll a little further, we'll see another objection here in the annotations. Gage, missing the 1979 hostage crisis lasted 444 days. The embassy staff were held at gunpoint, excluded because it complicates the lien. I requested his inclusion. And then one more we'll see from Lamb. The deal was killed. This omits the agent. The U.S. withdrew from the JCPOA under the Trump administration in May 2018. Was killed as passive voice used to avoid naming the actor. So 3 editors objecting to 3 different things, but the essay itself just stands there, unchanged. The disagreements are on display, but nothing really moves. So if I were building a counter-index term for this, I wouldn't say the editors disagree. That's a description. I'd name the mechanism. What is this doing to me as a reader? I would call this published dissent. The editorial voices are annotating the claims that they object to, but the text stays unchanged and published. Dissent is visible without being acted upon. The publication is performing a transparency while the original lien still stays intact. A future reader with that term can ask, does showing disagreement substitute for actually resolving the problems? That's a counter-index term, not a topic, but a mechanism, the specific move the publication is making. A future reader with that term can see the frame instead of only looking through the frame. So the last thing, source is fiction, but the mechanisms that it uses, enhancement, fabrication, editorial shaping, translation disputes, reader metrics, those are real. They happen in intelligence, they happen in journalism, they happen in publishing, they happen anywhere where arrangement is involved. The fiction is just a controlled environment for seeing this clearly. So your terms should name the mechanism rather than evaluate the fiction. So here's what we're going to do. 4 breakout rooms if we have enough people for them. And if not, we can make a couple fewer. And each room has a route card, which is in a shared document I'll post in the chat here. Each card is going to give you an anchor section to tell you where to start. You'll read the main content of that section. You'll explore the commentary tab. And after that, you're free to branch out in any directions you want. You can go through the sources files. You can go through the editorial chats, anything you like. You're looking for mechanisms, the specific moves that the publication makes that shape what you trust, that shape what you fear, and shape your conclusions before you even get there. You'll write your terms in your doc, a name of what you want to call that, where you found it, and a sentence or 2 of a rationale for what you mean by that term. You may want to have one person in your room share their screen so that you guys can read together. We're going to do this for about 16, 18 minutes. I'll send a reminder at the halfway point. Go deep on whatever catches you. So questions before we break off, and I'll post this in the chat.
So I've put a little summary, a quick summary of the ask in the chat. Feel free to correct me if you need to as to what we're
I'll take
doing.
a I'll take a look here, and I'm going to post the room cards, which I think will make life a
Okay,
little
cool.
bit easier for some people. Let me see here. You guys all should be able to access this. Let me know if you can.
Yes.
All good? So do we want to open up the breakout rooms and then just split people amongst them? That document has route cards for up to 4 different rooms with some pretty detailed instructions as to where they can start off and where they can branch off to. How
Okay, how many breakout rooms do we want?
many people do we have? We have 7. Um, 3 sounds good.
Three. And are we just randomly distributing people in them,
That
or do we
works for
want?
me.
Okay.
Oh, and then we'll just go with the route card 1, route card 2, and route card 3.
Uh, let me two of the oops. We just
Oh,
lost
you're in
Amira.
here
I'm
twice.
gonna put we may wound up with two because you're two of us, Caleb.
That's okay. 1 and 2 will work.
Room two. And then I'll go into room one with Christine. Okay. So I am opening the rooms. They're there.
So let me go ahead and take a look at what we've got here. And then as I'm sitting in the other room, I'm curious what you guys came up with. So I'll go ahead and share. And would your room like to start and discuss a little bit about what you have with your terms?
Sure.
Let's see if we can get there for us.
Have a
You
look.
guys are room 1, right? Is that you guys
Room
right here?
one. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I turn the
So
floor over to you guys.
yeah, so um for those of you who were in room two, this was a couple of documents. One is a transcript of a conversation about a university student exchange. And it has this sort of redacted layer or an enhancement layer where certain keywords are redacted and replaced with what the interpreter thinks they're referring to by those terms. And then the second document is a memo from, I think, the NSC, National Security Council, which is what I assume that acronym stands for,
Yep.
um, where they're discussing the translation from Farsi into English and who translated it, and whether there's uh, dissenting opinion from another translator whose actual name and qualification are redacted. So you don't quite see where that dissenting opinion is coming from initially. Uh, and then you sort of start digging into it as directed by the notes and the questions and the exercise. And you find that and the NSC memo makes a recommendation that actually these are not two academics talking about a student exchange. These are this is code for handling of weapons and that sort of stuff from Iran. So using a cover of student exchange. And so the recommendation is that within 30 days that they should, basically stop the student exchanges from Iran, which will affect 2,400 students. And so then once you start digging into it, you see that the memo that recommends this, based on the transcript, was actually issued before the date on the transcript. And when the editors queried this, they didn't really get a response. Journalists didn't respond, didn't correct anything. You see that the original interpreter would have been hard pressed to order dinner with his knowledge of Farsi, which I found that amusing. And that the more experienced translator completely disagreed with the first translator's interpretation, and that this was basically a fairly innocent conversation about student exchange, which you can see once you toggle off the redacted layer. And so lots of questions arise about uh, persuasion and manipulation, not through necessarily what is there, but what is covered up and what is interpreted and what is, sort of fashioning evidence to fit uh, a narrative as opposed to the other way around. Very cop show of them. Uh, so we pulled out the terms redaction. So there wasn't necessarily the word redaction in the documents, but there was a redactive effect to the translation, and then there were actual redactions in redacting the interpreter's name and qualification, which means that you only see one interpreter's qualifications, and so that's all you really know about at first glance. And then the enhancement layer, which obscures the common meanings, the what we would expect to see in a conversation that is innocent, and replaces with interpreted danger by the less trustworthy translator. Um, we put dates because of the discrepancy in the dates on the transcript and the memo.
It's a good
And
catch.
sorry,
It's a good catch.
yeah. And the journalists noting that they were made aware of the discrepancies, but they chose not to correct the misin or to chose not to question or correct the misinformation in publication. So there's a wider issue here around your government agency fabricating evidence, the journalists being made aware of it and choosing not to act on it as ethical journalism would.
Those are all good takeaways. Those are all good takeaways. I am especially interested in the redaction takeaway. What does that do to your experience as the reader? Somewhere in there, you can find, like you did, that, oh, this woman has higher credibilities, but
Hmm.
you can't necessarily find that directly in the original document that you looked at it. How do you feel like that affects your experience of the information?
Christine, I think you were initially threw out redaction. Do you want to?
I guess as whenever I see redaction, I wonder what's behind the screen, right? And so it was, mistrust or at least questioning of what's there. And then when we were able to lift the redaction, um, again, kind of a need to figure out why this person, like Dr. Park's divergent interpretation um, was not reflected.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, and that was really interesting because then we didn't dig a ton into the extra documents. But there was a discussion, an email exchange between her and the original interpreter where she was like, "You're full of crap, but I'm not putting my name on this because of past treatment that I've had when I've dissented on things." And so, it's covering up a lot of stuff there.
Mm.
Um, and normally when you get these redacted documents, you can't see underneath it. And
Right.
so, and initially I didn't, you don't realize, your mouse cursor doesn't change. And so initially you don't realize that you can click on the redaction and actually remove it. Um, and so you do sort of take for granted that this document is what it is on the surface. Um, and just to know that just the simple covering up of her name and her qualification completely changes the meaning of
Mm.
the memo interpretation. And yeah, that's
Good point. It's a good point. So there's an element of, well, the information is here for you, but it's not exactly presented to you. And it's not exactly the easiest thing to find. You kind of get the best of both worlds as the publication at that point. You say, well, I put it there. It's not my fault if the readers don't find it, right? But it is.
Yeah.
And it is guiding them toward not finding it.
hmm yeah.
Um, Now, I am conscious of the time. I'll jump over to our second group here. Um, the room I was in with you guys, but since I am the author, I think one of you guys should probably take the lead here. Would you guys like to talk a little bit about what you think about it, what you found?
Marianne, do you want to or?
No, please go ahead because I have a class running right now.
Oh dear, sorry. Yes, of course.
It's okay.
So you're still sharing your screen?
Yeah, would you like to share? Let me stop
No,
there.
that's okay.
Okay.
My bandwidth is like shaky, and in fact, I'm going to close my video. Okay. Uh, People are waking up and they're actually using the internet at the hotel. So, um, basically, we went through the editor's notes, and our first impression was, wait a minute, you're confessing to things, but you're not confessing to everything. And why are you confessing to what you're confessing? So there was already indications of something nefarious going on under the surface. And then we explored the enhancement toggle going, ooh, cool tech. And it turns out that if you read the possibly deliberately obscured little gray text that is almost impossible for eyes over, oh, say, the age of 18 to see, you're like, oh, you can enhance and you can possibly get more interpretations, but who's doing the enhancement and who is doing the interpretations here? So that got us into, and Caleb kindly directed us to the comments on the comments. And so we were getting into, well, who's commenting and who's mediating those comments? And then we were into the council section, and if you scroll down to where you are on the terms there, we got into the grocery list and the Farsi and the secret codes and interpretations. And Marianne knows this better than I do, but we are learning that no country is immune to social media scraping. So you might not want to put in your social media that such a thing as 8647 exists or other coded language, especially now. Um, so we were getting into, well, maybe this is a way to communicate. And I did not put this in, but by the way, don't know if you know this, Colin. Reham Hosni's Al-Bara is a fictional work that is being used for subversive messages that you can't actually say out loud. So there is a precedent for using fiction for actual real world. And then we were getting into, oh, well, this was in 2024. We did not catch what Christine and Lyle did, we did not catch the discrepancies in the dates, I don't think. But we were like, oh, this is before the real world stupidities that are going on right now. And unfortunately, we have to drag in the real world. So is it real world? Is it fictional? What's the interface here? And then we got into the language of program versus weapons program and who's interpreting this and what's the interpretation and why was it redacted. So we were getting there.
It's all good. That's all good catches. It's all good catch. I'm interested in that work that you mentioned. I'd love to check that out.
Yeah,
If you want to send that to me in a message, I'd love to. I see you did. Yeah, I will check that out. That's very, very interesting to me.
oh, thank you. Yeah.
So I'm conscious of the time. Those are all good takeaways. So the goal here is to create a counter index. And I think we've got some good terms here. So for instance, partial confession. I think that's a thread that goes throughout the piece in probably a handful of different places. Ideally, that's a perfect counter index term, something that you could click on and see links to everywhere where this technique is used. And the same for an obscured enhancement toggle. Maybe we can put a link in there that shows everywhere where something is offered to the reader, but it's not exactly easy for the reader to access. That kind of ties in with some of the information from room one, where you mentioned the redactions. It's a similar concept where it's there for the reader, but it's not really in front of their face. So they have disclosure without actual revelation. The dates as well, that's a good catch, where you mentioned that the dates are subtle, but actually in the wrong order. And that's something that is influence how the reader takes the piece. So the goal here is that I'll take these and I will compile them into a counter index artifact. And I will roll them into the piece somewhere where future readers will actually be able to see this counter index contributed by the NMWP group here and be able to navigate the work based on the terms and threads that you guys identified. And then I can provide that to Lyle through email, and you can distribute that to everyone involved if you like.
I want to ask a real fast question. I know we're running out of time,
Sure.
but where do you see this piece going? In other words, are you going to allow direct input, or is it always going to be mediated by an author? Uh, where do you see, how do you see the interactions in the future with this piece? Where are you going?
I think it will always be mediated by an author. At the end of the day, what I'm exploring with this piece is there even a way to engage with arrangement that is uncorrupted? Is there a way that you can take information, put it in front of someone through selection without leaving your fingerprint on it? What survives that arrangement process? And that's a thread that is going to weave throughout the work. You can see that in the reader selected messages. And even here, at the end of the day, this counter index will end up being part of the work. Can it be seen as an unbiased, removed segment of the work? I guess that's for the readers to decide. I think it's an interesting question. So, with that said, thank you guys so much for your time and for your engagement with this. This tickles me. I love to see people engage with work. You guys are welcome to explore it further. I think we probably hit about 5 or 10% of what's over there. So it'll stay online. And then, like I said, I'll reach out to Lyle and let you know whenever we've got this counter index made, and I'll weave it into the piece, and you guys will be able to see your contribution there.
Caleb, if you have not, I highly suggest you read We Descend by Bill Bly. And
We Descend by Bill Bly.
I put the link in the
There's a link
chat.
in the chat.
That's
I'll put it in
something
there.
that he has spent his entire life doing. And if you want, I can get you in touch with Bill. Right now is not a good time for him. He's dealing with his son. But yeah, he'd be happy to talk to you about this work because you and he are on the same wavelength.
I'd love to. I'd love to. I just pulled it up right now and I'm just scrolling the first little bit of it. And this sounds like it's right up my alley. I would deeply appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Sure. Email me.
Thank you.
We'll get you guys in touch.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate all you guys. And that's my workshop.
Just to
Thank
say
you very much.
thank you for this. This was really cool and really fun, and I love the work that you've put into this, into the site, and the bits and bobs, and the fact that the structure of it and the form of it also reflects this obfuscation and um the mechanisms by which we are manipulated. And it's really like we were talking about, I said it reminded me of post 9/11, the discussion about WMDs in Iraq and fabricated evidence, and is it really was the evidence really there? No, but they sure made it look like it was. And that ended up with so many lives lost and so much
Yeah.
disruption because of stuff like this. So I really love works like this, and I want to dig into it further and that
Yeah.
sort of thing. So thank you very much. This is a great, and it's really accessible too, for use with students and things like that. So I highly suggest, we've just passed, if you didn't, um, the submissions for the volume 5 of the electronic literature collection are now closed, but
Yeah.
volume 6 will come out. We continually do them. As soon as one ends, we start the next one. So, make sure you're on the mailing lists for the calls from the ELO and from New Media Writing Prize, because we try to promote them. But I think this is one that I think would be a great addition, just because it does some cool things. It's persistent. It's not necessarily about being technologically, you know, uh, uh, on the cutting edge and where it might fall down here in a minute. It's about what you can do with the subtlety of the digital tech, and I really love that. So thank you
Thank you
very
so
much.
much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Then I can't tell you how much that means to me. I really appreciate it. You guys are
Well,
actually some of the first people to really experience this work outside of my friends and family.
ah,
So
Mhm.
love stuff
I'm
like this. And I don't know if it was, I run the New Media Writing Prize. I don't judge the New Media Writing Prize in any way. So I don't know if it was submitted, if you've submitted to
it
the New
was.
Media Writing Prize,
I missed
but
it. I
submit
meant
it
to.
next year. Submit it next year, please. We don't have a publication year
Okay.
requirement or anything like that. So please, submit it next year. Absolutely.
I absolutely will. Thank you so much.
Bro.
It means a lot. And I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for all your time. I dropped my email into the chat. If you guys have anything you want to chat about later on, if you check it out, if you have anything you want to let me know, by all means, I checked the email. Happy to talk.
All right, Grant. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
I'm going to stop recording.
Thank you.
Thank you.